This is another one you can't take for granted, I would assume.
That's everyone. To quote a legendary coach, you let me know when we play one that doesn't matter, and I won't worry about it. I'll relax. I'll probably go recruiting. That's Belichick. He wouldn't even go recruiting, but he'd like to know when they're playing one that doesn't count. Yeah, everyone matters. Every game's hard. The minute you think it's not, you're going to lose. The other thing is, you know, what I try to talk to our players about, you're coaching young people that obviously, you know, all our guys are going to graduate, but academically, but they all have basketball aspirations. So I try to keep my guys focused on, if you improve individually, our team's going to improve. So, you know, from like, it's all about the team early on, and you know, guys get. I don't care how much you love something; it can get to become a grind. That's what February can happen in college basketball. We try to do some things different. Our practices change every January 20th. When I see that day on the calendar, we don't practice as long. We spend a lot more time on individual skills because you don't have to really train your. Well, you shouldn't have to train your team to play hard. They should be trained. So anyway, I try to keep my guys focused on. They get it. You know, we've got a lot to play for, but I want them to try to get better as an individual player. That's, you know, that should be their motivator. That's what they came here for.
How long have you done that? Change things up in February?
I don't know. I'm getting old, so it's been a while, to be honest with you. I noticed it when I was coaching at Murray State. One of my, you know, I don't even know if it was my first year. I just noticed I thought, you know, our energy level versus some of our opponents. You could just see that they felt their season was over. Obviously, you know, my first year, I don't know what our record was, but we went to the NCAA tournament. And, you know, I just think energy level, excitement level is really important in college athletics. And it can become a grind.
You practice less?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We don't, and I enforce myself on that. So, you know, we put 99 minutes on the clock. And so the guys know when it hits zero, practice is over. So they, you know, they know it's not going to be a marathon. And also I know it, so I know how to keep things moving. And, you know, my goal is to get done before it hits zero.
So even if they don't have a good practice, you're not going to keep them?
No, we just, you know, we rarely have bad, we might have a bad practice for 20 minutes, but, you know, you got to change it, you know. But if you got to beat each other up right now, you didn't do your job in October and November.
Good three-point shooting team. Are almost all teams good three-point shooting teams now?
I think that's what's changed. You know, the game has changed so much. You know, I was on Mark Packer's show yesterday, satellite radio. We were talking just, you know, the evolution of the game. You know, you turn on a pro game and, you know, nobody weighs over 230, 240, even the big guys. You know, everybody's flying up and down the floor. There's 4 shooters on. You know, it used to be you play a team that has 4 guys that can shoot. And it was like, oh man, they got 4 guys that can shoot. Now, that's every team now, you know. So now you play SMU, the guy they started, you know, the quote unquote 4 spot, Isaiah Mike. I think he's hit 10 threes or something in their last 2 games. You know, and Ethan Shagwar starts at the 5, and he's a 3-point shooter. So they, you know, their point guard is not, but he's a great player, Jimmy Witt. But so you know, it's every game, absolutely. The game has evolved that way.
Anything that you had success in the second half against Temple, whether it was the press or more man-to-man, will that show up more, or was that Temple-specific?
We're game plan specific. I think, you know, I would say in that game, we don't win if it's not for our bench. You know, I thought Trey gave us a couple big baskets in the low post. Obviously, we have a go-to guy in Jaron. But I thought Logan saved us from getting blown out in the first half with some energy level. And you know, I showed the team how, you know, how LEL saved us. He had 2 unbelievable, what we would call Bearcat plays in the second half. So he stopped the ball, turned around and stopped the drive, and turned around and blocked the shot and got the rebound. Rarely do you see a guy stop the ball and block a shot. You almost never see a guy do it, and then get the rebound of the shot he blocked. He did it 2 times in the second half. So. You know, every game, you know, we just enforce it. Our defense was better in the second half, and we only turned the ball over twice. That's huge. So, you know, we reinforce the fact that 3 for 18 from the three-point line, we still scored 72 points. So, you know, if you got to focus on, your kids got to know what's going to get you W's. They can't, you know, you play games where you make every shot, you're probably going to win if you're, you know, if you got players. So.
You've talked before about if you fall behind, you don't catch up by shooting your way back. It's rebounding and defense. That's pretty much exactly what you did.
And well, you got to take care. You can't rebound a turnover. So, you know, getting shots off, taking care of the ball is huge, especially on the road. You know, because you got a chance to shut teams out more at home. It's hard to shut a team out on the road. But you know, the key is, for us, like I said, we got to keep improving individually. We spend a lot of time on individual improvement because that doesn't beat the guys up as much. There's skill level stuff that we work on, and offensive stuff that we work on. Because you got to be able to get baskets. So, you know, best laid plans don't always go. You know, I'll keep talking about this. We won't make a shot Saturday night.
Talking about the bench, and Trevor probably still isn't shooting the way he wants to or you want him to, but he's able to come in and give you minutes and get big offensive rebounds. You know,
well, you know, another one, Trevor Moore. You know, I talked about the bench at Temple was the difference for us. Our bench versus theirs. You know, Trevor Moore's rebound of a missed free throw was Jaquan Parker-esque, you know, which is, he got one against Rutgers years ago on the road when we clinched the AAC title in year one. That, no, that was in the Big East days, but we still show it every year. It's like a legendary Bearcat lore play. So, yeah, Trevor had one. Now the guys were teasing him, said his eyes were closed on the putback, but it was a big time rebound, Yeah, so you know, it's going to happen for him. It's going to happen for Trevor. He's just still a young kid, hasn't played a lot of basketball, didn't play a lot, plays a quarterback, and he still gets a little nervous. But the day that his practice, and I don't talk about drills, I'm talking about live play. If you were to watch us practice live, you would think he's Klay Thompson 4 out of 5 days. That's how crazy it is some days. So playing, well, I got to put him in the game. You know, comfort level, minutes. You know, it's tough when you're coming off the bench and you're so excited and you're trying to get in a rhythm as a shooter. It really is in defense of him.
How important is
Not that I ever had to worry about that. You know, at LaSalle, you know.
Guys, you've been playing 10, 11 guys. SMU's bench looks pretty short right now.
I've always thought it's extremely important, you know, but I think that we all get 13 scholarships for a reason, and some people play their bench, some people don't, you know. As a kid growing up, I used to sit, you know, wasn't many games on, date myself a little bit. There was only a few games on a week, but I used to sit with my dad, watch North Carolina, and ask him why Dean Smith would sub in the first half, almost like a pro coach. He'd sub on the clock. And he would always say, you know, he's got probably more players than the other guy, but he's trying to wear them down, and he believes in winning the game in the last 10 minutes. But again, you know, Mike Krzyzewski's known as the best college coach probably of all time right now, and he doesn't believe in that, nor has he ever. You know, I've seen him play guys, you know, in national. They lost to Connecticut in the Final Four. He had Reddick and Sheldon Williams. He was out there, you know, they fouled out early because he plays his top 6, 7 guys. That's it. So we all do it differently. You know, here I think our bench has got to be important with the type of program we have and the level of player that we can get. We don't, you know, we're not running. We don't have 3 lottery picks, but we can. You know, our strength can be in our numbers. But everybody's allowed to play them. You're only going to develop them if you put them in. I think it's important. Like that, that's why some people don't understand about some of the scheduling in the early season. You got to play some games where you can get those guys minutes.
What kind of impact did Keith Williams picking up 2 fouls early have in the first half?
Yeah, you know, a lot of that stuff's never really. Well, we don't know because we'll never know. But you know, I think in the flow of games, that can get lost at times, and that happens to our opponents as well. You know, it's hard for a guy to really become a factor. Guy gets 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes. It's hard for him to get going in the second half because he's been sitting there, you know, the chronological time, he's been sitting down for almost an hour. Well, you know, when you factor in the halftime. So it's hard, you know, hard for a guy like that to get going. But he had a big three for us, huge three.
Frank Haith said the other day, your teams are always the same. It's almost like you just plug guys in, and you kind of laughed and said, "I wish it was that easy."
I wish it was that. You know, Frank was.
Do you take that as a compliment?
Oh yeah. Frank and I, you know, I know what he meant by that.
What did he mean by it?
Well, I think his point is that, you know, that we always play hard. We're tough to play against. The greatest compliment is if the other team's fans dislike you. You know, when I worked for Bob Huggins, we averaged, the 5 years I was with Coach, we averaged 27 wins a year. And, you know, he wore suits back then. And he wasn't like, he wasn't controversial, but he was hated, like wherever we went. But you know, he had already been coaching. I had just got with him. And I was, you know, everywhere we go, it's brutal. I mean, the fans were brutal on him. And you realize they hate him because he wins. You know, so, you know, but no, Frank's a compliment. You know, I think you know, I would say that about his teams, though, as well. You know, I think, you know, for the situation he's in, I think they play extremely hard. Extremely hard. They're just undersized.
So do you feel like you developed a winning formula here? Is that an intentional thing?
I don't think I've developed any formula. I think guys been doing, you rebound.
No, I mean the kind of players you get and how you can develop them and plug them into those spots.
Well, first of all, I think the fallacy would be that we don't try to get certain players, you know, that Chad would deal with. People think that, well, like we didn't recruit Luke Kennard would be completely false. We all tried. Ohio State, you know, we all tried. You know, Kemba Walker starting in the All-Star game, I literally cried when UConn offered him after I recruited him for 3 years. You know, talking about having your heart broken. So, you know, it's not like we try to get, you know, we don't try to get, so I mean, Jaron Cumberland was an elite player. Everybody knew about him. It's not like he was some hidden gem. So, you know, Lance Stevenson. We just, I think if you can't get those type of certain guys, you better get guys you can win with. So, you know, again, I'd take it back to Coach Huggins told me a long time ago, when he put me out on the road, he said there's two kind of players. Guys that help you win and guys that don't. And there's a lot of talented guys in the pros that don't help their team win. So talent doesn't always, is not always the, you know, just because a guy can shoot, dribble, or pass doesn't mean he's a winner. Now, you got to be able to, you know, so you got to have parts, pieces to the puzzle. But, you know, I think continuity is huge. You got to have returning players. Because if you don't have returning players, it's, you know, I can't imagine what, you know, being John Calipari, what he's got to go through every year. He's doing an unbelievable job coaching this year. But I can't imagine coaching freshmen every year. And how, because if the musical chairs stop and there's nobody, you know, who's going to play?
So that was your philosophy before you got here. It's not something you developed here.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I've never been, as an assistant, I wasn't at, you know, I never had the opportunity to go select the top 40 guys in the country. You know, those, you know, certain schools, they're selecting. And I say that out of, you know, respect, not jealousy. I say that out of respect. So, you know, it's just the situation you're in dictates who you can get. You know, to go spend all your time in recruiting, it'd be like campaigning in states you can't win. You know, you got to know. So, you know, you spend all your time recruiting players you're not going to get, then you're left picking from the bottom of the pile. So you got to be smart about, you know, guys you can get. Obviously, we signed Samari Curtis. I mean, he's the best player in Ohio. But again, you got to ascertain the situation, dictates it, and then you go from there. But it's important. The experience tells you who you can get. I would say it goes a long way back for me. So with Jason Richardson, my first year with Coach Huggins, he said, "What do you think?" Because he liked us, longtime NBA player. I said, "We're going to finish second." He said, "Are you sure?" It was August. I said, "Absolutely. We're not. He's going to go to Michigan State. Too many ties. We're going to finish second." He likes us a lot, though. He said, "Cancel his visit. who can we get? Rod Baker and I said, a guy named Leonard Stokes. He's going to play 4 years, and we can get him. Let's go get him. Got to be smart about it.
Keith's the guy you could get, right? What did you see?
Keith?
Keith, as a player and a
I knew we
person.
could get Keith when I called him. I could tell in his voice on the phone. He made me feel like I was Coach K
Really?
when I called him. I could just tell when he jumped through the phone. I called Coach Savino. I said, we're going to get this guy. We're going to have to work through it and, you know, get to know everybody, but I can tell this guy wants to come.
You often say young players are inconsistent, but he has not been inconsistent this year.
I still think he's far from his ceiling as a basketball
Right, but
player.
he's been consistent for his first year start.
Yeah, well, I think Keith loves basketball. He's a great athlete. You know, I compare him to Ruben Patterson. That fundamentally, as he continues to improve, his athleticism gives us. He's great to play with Jaren because he's such an elite athlete. Where Jaren is, he's not. Jaren's just an unbelievably great basketball player. So you know, as Keith learns from Jaren on that stuff, but he just brings that added dimension. You know, he can block a shot as a guard that other guys, you know, he can do things other guys can't do. Like he had a defensive rebound at Temple where literally his arm is above everybody else on the floor. And it was a big rebound in the second half. So I would say this, Keith's effort is consistent. Because he really plays hard. So like why do, you know, that's what we looked at. He might be raw in certain areas, but friends with his high school coach, friends with his AAU coach, know he's a good kid with a good heart. His dad puts work boots on every day in Brooklyn. Gets up at 5 a.m. That's a fact, I'm not making that up. You know, so, you know, Keith understands work ethic.
You mentioned Kenneth Walker, and you cried.
Oh, yeah, that's a true story.
Who's the guy that you got that you jumped up and down about?
Jacob Evans. I mean, you know, I'd have to keep going back. But, you know, probably most recently, Jaren and Jacob. You know, Jacob, I just kept worrying somebody else was going to figure out how good he was. You know, I was surprised. You know, Jaren committed right after his dad drove him down. But, you know, those guys, they were no-brainers of how good they were. But there's others, I'm sure, you know. Been here a long time now. Been here a long time.